All right, guys, Leo Cannell here with today's Seven Figures Club podcast. And today, my friends, we've got a gentleman here who has an amazing story. His name is Troy Broussard. He is a rare breed, a true polymath, a successful seven-figure entrepreneur, author, coach, and multiple business owner. He's the creator and founder of his own email platform, mobile learning app-based platform, and social and community platform. Troy is a brash contrarian with a nuclear engineering background, yet he focuses on simplicity. He's a consummate content creator and teacher, writes a book every month. Wow, that's amazing. He writes a book every month. Through his Memoirs of Mastery program, he hosts dozens of hours of coaching per month and runs an offshore development team out of Brazil, overseeing various software endeavors. Troy, welcome to the show.
There are over 32 million businesses in the U.S., and over 90% of them will never break seven figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that seven figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-seven figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Leo. Thanks for having me.
So we always like to begin to kind of find out a little bit more about your background. Our audience is entrepreneurs, startups, side hustlers who are looking to build their empire and create wealth and freedom for their family and also make a positive impact. But as we look back to, who was Troy in high school? What was Troy like, and what were some of the factors, in your background as a child growing up that you think maybe led you to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I was always very independent and into tech, a little bit of a geek. When I was young, when I was 10 years old, my 18-year-old sister was killed, and it led me on to just a very independent route. I went to private boarding schools, moved out of home, never really lived at home after I was about 13. I ended up going internationally to exchange programs and came back from that and went into the Navy. So I had this burning desire of independence and freedom and my own kind of lifestyle from a very, very young age. And honestly, I give my sister a lot of credit for that because she kind of inspired me. I went to my first private school in my freshman year in high school because she had been there. And I wanted to kind of connect with my sister a little bit, having lost her at such an early age. And so I started off on that path. And once I got a taste of being out on my own, I just loved it. And so it just continued further and further down that rabbit hole.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel like that's similar for a lot of us entrepreneurs. We crave at the deepest, desires and levels, freedom and the freedom of choice, the freedom to control our life, the freedom to make as much money as we want, to work as hard as we want and get what we earn versus, going down another path where you don't have those types of opportunities and freedom. So you talked about traveling to, different countries. What were some of those countries that you visited, and how did that kind of affect the way you saw the world? Because for me, I lived in South America for a couple of years, and I know that definitely brought a different perspective that I think a lot of people growing up in the U.S., especially those of us born here, maybe don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I went down to Brazil at 16 as an exchange student and speak fluent Portuguese to this day. My wife and family are Brazilian. My children are dual nationals. So it's a big part of my foundation of my culture, having gone down there. I've lived over 10 years down in Brazil on and off, and had residency down there and still maintain a residence there as well. So it's something that had a huge impact on my life going international, because I think it gives you a completely different perspective. As you've said, most of the countries I've been to are in South America. So every country in South America and a bunch of them in Central America. So kind of been all through that region. But as far as living, was primarily in Brazil. Yes. Yeah, it's, I think as Americans, we kind of develop a warped perspective. And I think, part of it is we can't really help it. Our media is so focused on America, right? We are a first world country. We are one of the leaders in the world economy. And so we tend to have this kind of myopic vision that is just a national type vision, right? But I know if you've lived overseas, you know what I mean. When you get out of the US, most of the news is international. And I think that it's just a very different perspective for sure.
Yeah, no question. No question. For me, I lived in Chile for a couple of years down there in South America. Wonderful people down there, and one of the strongest economies also per capita in South America. And certainly that's changed the last few years. But for me, and I loved living there, and I loved, learning from the people, and I loved learning Spanish and all those different things. But at the same time, you start to realize, and maybe when you come back to the US, you don't take for granted some of the freedoms, some of the opportunities, some of the higher living standards that we have in this country. And a lot of people don't understand that. And the other thing that always inspires me, and this was true, I was in Florida not too long ago, and I came across a lot of different entrepreneurs who had come from some of these South American countries, and they knew the opportunity for entrepreneurship and to be a business owner is so amazing here in the United States. And as immigrants, they took full advantage of that. And I think that's something that a lot of us here, born and raised in the US, do not understand how good we have it and the opportunities. And yet you'll see some of these immigrants who come here and they don't even speak the language. They don't even know the culture. And yet they will hit the ground running with no fear and build a successful business. And I find that, to be a great lesson for us all of the opportunity we have here for entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think it comes from the difference in the social structure. In most third world countries, South America, everywhere, you're largely born into your social class. It's very, very difficult to traverse social tiers down in Brazil, for example. If you're born dirt poor, man, you've got a really tough road to be able to pull yourself up and hit middle class, right? Or become wealthy. In the United States, there's just abundant opportunity. And I know people that have lived here all their lives don't necessarily feel that way, especially in the middle of a bit of a depression and COVID and all these things. But having lived overseas for 10 years of my life, I'm telling you, we are blessed beyond recognition here. And you can grow up in the worst area of the United States and still get a scholarship to Harvard if you work for it, if you earn your way in. You don't have those type of opportunities elsewhere. So I've always been very, very grateful of my exchange program and my military service. And I wasn't in the military a long time. And in fact, I was in a very short period of time, but I'm very grateful for both of those because they gave me a very different perspective on the world that we live in.
And I think the other lesson that I learned is from the people of Chile, and I think this is true of a lot of Latin America in general, is there's this openness, this willingness to help anybody. So when you're
just like New Yorkers, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. I was just in New York City speaking at an event this last weekend, and so it was nice to be back in the city there in Manhattan, and we caught a Jets game, But yeah, no, it's very different in the U.S. compared to Latin America. And the example I'll give is when you're a young gringo and you don't speak the language, and just how amazing it was. So many people would help you. They would bring you into their home and give you food, and without even knowing really anything about you. And I think, that's one thing that in the U.S. you wouldn't see, like that openness, that willingness to help people and love people. And so that was one great thing that I learned a lot, by hanging with people in Latin America.
Yeah, they're very family-oriented culture, in many ways. And I don't mean this as a negative thing. I mean, it's a compliment. And in many ways, they're kind of like the U.S. was in the 50s, when there was more of a family-oriented culture and more of a close-knit culture and community and small town, and everybody know each other and those kinds of things. That really doesn't exist much here anymore, at least not in the big cities. You got to really get into the country to kind of still have those types of roots in the U.S. But in South America, it's just very, very common, right? And I'm still really close friends with my family down there. I may not see them for years at times, but when I'm there, it's just like we're saying hello the day before. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So after school, what was the first entrepreneurship, business that you launched, and how did that happen for you?
Well, I'll fast forward over the typical stuff. I went through the corporate route for a while. So I worked at Blue Cross Blue Shield for a while as a software developer and Encyclopedia Britannica, and raised up through the ranks there, and went through the whole .com era in the corporate world. And then that kind of fell apart. And I took a couple of years off. I had been pretty blessed. I had a really good salary in programming and software development. So I took a couple of years off, and I got fired, actually. So it was the best thing that had ever happened, because I probably would have still been in that world had I not been, kicked out the door. And that was a great thing for me, because it gave me the opportunity to just reset. And in the early 2000s, I did a bunch of land development and construction and stuff to that with my brothers. And of course, 2008 came along, and that I lost everything. I lost millions. We were set pretty good and lost it all. And to the point of when I moved back down to Brazil just to save some money and be close to family and all of that. I didn't even have a car. I was living on $500 a month. It was a pretty rough time for a while. And at that point, I kind of came to this epiphany that if I'm going to do all this all over again, and there was no question I've got kids to support, a family to support. Obviously, I'm going to make it happen. I'm a military guy, right? But I'm going to do it my way this time. And that's what really kicked everything off. I decided with certainty that I was going to build my own business that I could run anywhere in the world from a smartphone and really build it around my constraints. And so, I started out with an SEO company and built that up to over 110 people on staff and multi-million-dollar company within about 18 months. Yeah, rapid growth, man. To go from 0 to 110 people in 18 months, I'm telling you, it's a challenge. And so that got my taste of it. And then it's just kind of rippled through that. In the last, I spent many years in the marketing automation space. I have a best-selling book on Infusionsoft and was one of the leaders in that space for many years. And in the last 5 or 7 years, I've really gotten back to my roots of software development. So I have always done software through this since I was a teenager. I grew up writing code in high school. So now that's all I do. When I talk about mastery, it's because that's the way I believe in doing everything. I go really, really deep. I don't go wide, I go deep, right? And so everything I do now is constrained about software. I have 5 different software platform and companies that I'm partners on some. And rather than trying to go out and become a better marketer or focus on the marketing effort, I partner up with a marketer and build them a software platform. And that's the way I do it. That allows me to stay in my lane, go deeper in what I do, leverage the fact that I have an offshore development team and the resources and the experience to pull it off, and bolt in 6-figure income streams for somebody that has a great influence and exposure, but doesn't want to mess with software, would love to have their own software and bolt in the profit, but doesn't want to deal with the drama. And so I've learned to stay in my lane and go really deep in what I do.
And that's I think a real key for all of our listeners out there in the audience that are building a business, and you get excited about doing all these different things. The sooner you can be really focused on providing, a product or service that's a solution for a very specific problem and niche driven, maybe even a sub niche, the sooner you can dominate in that area, the sooner you can really see a lot of results. Now, a lot of business owners, look at software and I think they understand how important it is, but they see a lot of, unknown. And sometimes it's a black hole that you keep on throwing money at without getting any results. What are some of the keys, for a business owner to understand when they're investing in a software or developing it that they should know before they even begin that process?
I always tell everybody the first sign of intelligence is to be able to admit your own ignorance. Mm-hmm. And just because you think software is simple or you've seen it and it looks simple, it's not. And you need to respect the other industries just like you'd like them to respect you. It's not easy to come out here and do anything and be successful at it. So the biggest failures that I see with people is they kind of dismiss software, or they think it's really simple to implement and that they can, they're just going to go hire a team themselves and do it. And they really just, fail miserably. So for example, Learnistic, my app platform, is all about mobile learning and publishing your own courses and everything through a mobile platform on Apple and Google and all of that. Well, I see people all the time say, well, I can just do my own app. I can get somebody in India to code it up and this and that. And they just trivialize it. And then I say, yeah, go ahead. see how that works out. You're going to spend 30, 50, $100,000, and okay, you get it done, but then you quickly realize that an app platform is never done because the new phones come out, the new technology comes out, the bugs hit, you've got all the support nightmares. Now you've got to go further and further and further down this rabbit hole. And next thing you know, you're not spending $30,000 on an app, you're spending 50 to 100, and then another 50 to 75 minimum to have decent programmers on staff in order to keep up with it. Right. And I think that's the biggest confusion, is people think that they can just put software in a box, or they think that they can manage software because they can manage other things. And if you've read any books on software management, they don't call it herding cats for nothing, right? I mean, us programmers are a unique breed, and it really kind of takes a programmer to understand a programmer. And I think with businesses, is they have, especially entrepreneurs that want to bolt in software, they have an idea of what they want, but they're not really good at conveying that idea in a way that a programmer can hear what they're saying and go out and replicate it. I think there's such a major disconnect in the communication between a business person and a programmer that single disconnect is probably the single biggest reason for failure on software projects. And I've seen so many of them. We have dozens of case studies of people on our platform that have spent upwards of $200,000 trying to build their own, just to rip it up, throw it away, and just say, you know what, we'll let you do it.
Been there, done that, Troy. Guys, the most important thing I've seen in software development, and if you want to have a successful company that's valuable, you have to have some kind of app, some type of software, some type of technology that makes your products and service easier to, get the result that your customer or client wants. But for me, the most important thing is not all the development of that, but it's who are you trusting that can actually get that job done? And that's the biggest, obstacle, is finding who. It's not the how, it's the who. Who knows how to do this? Who has the track record? Who can stay on, the time frame and budget? And that's why you got to work with someone like Troy, or you will get into massive problems and you'll fall into this black hole of just investing money mindlessly, and you'll never get your software, where you need it to be. So what are some of the things that, Troy, you and your team do to kind of take those first steps when someone's trying to build out that software, that they should be aware of and thinking about, before they go see someone like you and your team?
Yeah, well, we don't do it as a service for people. I partner up. Yeah, I partner up with a couple of people a year, and that's really it. Just a couple of large influencers that already have their big audiences and know that they can bolt in a six-figure income stream with software if they just have the right tool and right partner. Those are the types of things that I do. I develop my own software for myself, and so for me, it's not worth it from a cost standpoint to go build someone for someone as a service, but partnering with the right person that has their influence and their own audience to fulfill, that's a different type of ball game. But I'll tell you, what I've learned is that you have to be very smart in how you build your team. We do not have the typical development team. I have a team in Brazil. It's very specific reasons why I have it there. First of all, most teams are in India, and the code quality that comes out of there is typically, and I'm not saying all, but in general, it's pretty poor quality because you don't know what you're getting. And many times you've got people that are working for $3, $4, $5 an hour, rebilling at $20 an hour through an agency and pretending to not work for an agency, not telling you they work for an agency. And it's just a coding farm. And you don't even know who's coding because you think you're talking to, Manpreet or something. And next thing you know, it's somebody else that's just pretending to be them on the other side. Right. And that is really, really common. And so you really have to be careful. And business owners don't really know the quality of what they're getting. They can only judge the quality of software by what they see. And so it may look nice, but when all of a sudden you put thousands of users on it and it doesn't scale and it breaks and it has all kinds of bugs and problems, they don't understand because they're not developers the quality issues, right? And so my approach is completely different. I speak fluent Portuguese. I've lived down in Brazil for 10 years. The exchange rate with Brazil is really in our favor in the US. And so, yeah. And so I built a team there. We pay top dollar to our guys. I have one of the guys on my team, the head of our architecture. This is a guy that graduated in the top, 0.01% of his class, like the top 10 people, period, in his entire university. He was interviewed recently on, for TV and radio for just how successful he was in college. I mean, that's the type of talent we go after down there. And we have great packages with our teams, and we are putting together profit sharing programs with them and all kinds of stuff, because we want to really build a strong foundation so that we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel with the team. And this is the kind of stuff you can't do if you're just going to try to outsource a project. You don't have that ability. And so you're always going to be dealing with like C tier, or you hope you're dealing with C tier. You're going to be paying C tier rates, and you hope, and they might be F tier, people. So yeah, you just have to
sound good.
Oh man, I've seen it all. I have seen it all. Trust me. And I've gone through, and just to give you an idea, in the last like 7-8 years, I've gone through over 500 people and developers that have worked for me at one shape or another. So, you see a lot, and there's some crazy stuff out there you really got to be aware of. My best advice to somebody that's a businessman is look for somebody that you can partner up with and find an equitable deal that way, because trying to do it on yourself, if you don't have that background, not the best way to go.
That's a very good point. That's what I've seen successful too, as we build out different software platforms with our company, is kind of having a head person who understands that they might not know how to do everything, but they know who can and can actually manage those projects for you. Because if you're trying to manage the project and you don't even speak the right coding language, it's not going to work out very well. But if you have that trusted person, an equitable deal, like you're saying, that's definitely a great way to go about it. Now, I know some of the software that you have developed, some of it is actually related to a CRM. How does your CRM work, and what kind of businesses can benefit by using your CRM, Troy?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a platform called Berserker Mail, and Berserker Mail is a partnership with myself and Ben Settle. And Ben Settle is one of the top email marketers in the world. And we partnered up on that venture. And it's really an email platform created by marketers for marketers, right? We created the platform we want to use, and it is a very, very solid and reliable CRM, but it's also really a marketer's dream, because it's all optimized around speed and efficiency. In our platform, you can write an email with 2 clicks of a mouse, it's sent, right? As opposed to going through some of these other platforms, and it's like, 23 clicks later, you're still trying to hit a preview and see this and do that. I write, I have 5 different companies. I have 4 different coaching groups that I run. I'm writing emails, probably 15 to 25 emails a week. I send out daily emails, sometimes 4 or 5 emails in a day. And it's got to be around speed. I'm a businessman. And so everything we do in Berserker Mail is optimized for speed and efficiency. It's for the professional marketer that doesn't want to be screwing around, wasting their time. They want to get something done. They want to get it done at the most effective way possible. And they understand that deliverability and inboxing are the most important things. They're not trying to create pretty fluffy mommy blog type emails. They're out there to get their message delivered and to build a relationship with their audience. And so that's why we call it Berserker Mail. It's about building those Berserker fans, right? And it's the CRM side of it is kind of light right now, but my background is all in marketing automation and CRM. So it's already got a campaign builder and tagging and automations and all of those things. You can create your own drag and drop web forms and everything that the average business person needs, and a lot more features in development and coming. We just rolled it out in September, so it's quite new right now, but growing and very, very stable. So we're having fun with it. And most important is it's something that I run my businesses on. It's what Ben runs his businesses on. And so
you guys are
it's our
products
legacy.
of the product then.
Yeah, yeah.
That's important.
And, man, nobody's going to be on top of the team more than me to make sure everything's working perfectly because my businesses rely and depend on it. And I think that's a very fresh and contrarian perspective, right? Go out there and look at some of the other platforms, and I won't use names, but are they really built by marketers that are using it? Or are they just a platform that's advertising on TV to, try to get more business, right? It's a very different ball game. And I think that we're not for everybody. We have some very stringent rules, and, we're not trying to cater to everybody. We are for the professional marketer that values their time.
I like it. Now, there's a lot of different marketers that have different perspectives on email marketing. Obviously, a decade ago, it was really one of the most important marketing methodologies. And today in 2021, you hear some people talk about email marketing being dead and others talking about how incredibly effective it still is. Now, I was reading actually on your website some of your testimonials, and you are actually known, even though you don't always say it, as a very good copywriter. So I think that's really what it comes down to successful email marketing. What are some of the keys to having high open rates with your emails? Because that's really the key, right? If they don't open it, if they're not intrigued, they're not going to learn more and take steps and take action and move through the value ladder of your business. What are some of those keys to getting those open rates up and having successful email marketing campaigns? Obviously, you've made it easier, but what are some of those keys that people should be aware of?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, as I said, that I would say is forget open rates. Open rates are completely unreliable, and they're getting worse and worse in terms of industry reliability. Apple just did a bunch of stuff that changes it. There's entire, Android phones don't even trigger opens when people read them on there. There's all kinds of browsers and web-based reading software that blocks open. So people like to glom on to a metric, and so they worry about that. But I focus on what Ben teaches and what I teach and what we both practice is daily email, relationship building, and really building your own world. Everybody that's on my list knows me. They know about me. They know about my family, my proclivities, my interests. They have a personal, close relationship, right? And that is what I am. I was kind of chuckling when you said copywriter. Right? It's a good friend of mine, Kevin, that wrote that, and he is an ace copywriter, one of the best in the world. I love the guy. But I'm more of a storyteller than I am a copywriter, and I think that is a good thing, because someone that's listening to this, it can be hard to become a copywriter. I don't consider myself a copywriter, but some of the best copywriters out there do. And the reason for that is I'm really good with story selling. And I think story selling is something that we can all learn. It's very easy. It's natural. It's in our culture. It's the way we have evolved over millions of years of learning to tell stories, and just being able to tie that into business and build that relationship. So if you really want to focus on a single metric, to me, it's revenue. How much revenue is your email making you, which is really easy to know. You send somebody to a sales page, you know how many sales you got. And if you want to increase that, email more frequently, improve the quality of your email, and improve the quality of your relationship with your list. Unfortunately, there's no shortcuts here. And, everybody likes to focus on the funnel hacking and all these kind of, I'm going to do this funnel and this and that. It's a lot easier just to learn how to build a relationship with your list and just send out email. It's something, it's so easy that people don't believe it's true. But my partner, Ben, runs a 7-figure newsletter just off of email. I run multiple businesses. It's all based on email. Neither one of us even have social media accounts. I'm not even on Facebook. He's not either. Neither one of us does paid advertising through Facebook or any of that. So I always kind of chuckle when people say that email is dying. I'm happy they feel that way, because it makes me a lot of money. So I'm quite content that they think it's dead.
Well said. Thank you for that, Troy. So guys, let's unpack some of what Troy just shared with us. Number one, we've got to tell stories, right? Your emails can't just be boring how-tos. You've got just a few seconds, a few words in the subject line and at the beginning of the email to capture someone's curiosity and attention. And there's nothing more powerful than doing that than by sharing a story. So a big key right there, share that story. Email daily. How many times do people say, oh, you don't want to offend your audience and email them, too much. No, wrong. You want to email them every single day. And then you're emailing them not always with the intent to sell, not always with the intent to move them forward through your value ladder, but to build a relationship is what Troy is saying. And I believe that to be absolutely true. And then again, it's not all business. He's talking about, here's some of the personal things going on in my life so that they connect on a personal level with you. There's emotion. Maybe he's talking about, his travels, some of his hobbies, family, friends, that type of thing. So those are the keys. Build that relationship, email daily, tell stories. Amazing value bombs dropped by Troy with that. Now, everyone listening here, whether they're a marketer or obviously they're an entrepreneur, they're involved in marketing, which is so important to your business these days. What are the next steps? How can they connect with you and learn and harness all the wisdom and years of success you've had in marketing so that they can, follow your roadmap to success instead of the school of hard knocks trying to figure everything out?
Boy, isn't that the truth? It's just, it's so much easier to just buy experience. You can invest in somebody else's experience really, really affordably. So, and the price to buy experience for me is really simple. It's just an email address. If you go to troyb.me, that will send you off to my website. The website is actually troybroussard.com, but Broussard's a little tough name to spell. So just go to troyb.me and that'll send you to my website. And you'll see that I give away my first issue of Memoirs of Mastery. It's a monthly print book that I do every single month. And I give it away in a digital form for an opt-in. So if you want to plug into the conversation, troyb.me.
And is that just the letter B?
Yes. Yep. The letter B, TROYB as in Broussard.me.
Got it, guys. So go to troyb.me, connect up with Troy, get on his email list, and then you can go join him in that journey of becoming a great marketer, of harnessing software and technology. And for me, a lot of that technology is key performance indicators. If there aren't different analytics that you're measuring, and of course, what Troy said at the very top, hey, measure those revenues based on your email marketing, and that will give you a really good idea of what's working and what's not. So once again, everyone, if you're listening, if you're on the YouTube channel, wherever you're at, go to Troy, TROYB.me, M-E, connect up with him, take that journey. Troy, I always tell people the most important thing, if you learned and got a lot of value out of this episode, which I guarantee you did, the most important thing, please take action. Don't just listen, passively, oh, that sounds like a good idea, and then forget and not actually implement what you just learned. Implement what you learned by connecting up with troyb.me and take some action. Troy, you've got the last word about what everyone needs to have in mind as we move into 2022.
2022, I will just leave you with this. Everybody talks about peak performance. Peak performance, there's only two skills you need to master: focus and discipline. That's it. So get focused and develop a new habit to create that discipline. What I would recommend is getting up an hour earlier. I start my day anywhere from 3 to 4 a.m. every single day, get more done before most people even wake up for the day. So focus and discipline, and that will lead you into a great 2022.
Beautifully said. TroyB.me. Troy, thank you so much for being on the Seven Figures Club podcast. And your words of wisdom today are going to help a lot of our entrepreneurs take that next step to join the Seven Figures Club.
Thanks much, Leo, for having me. I enjoyed it.
Are you looking for more seven-figure secrets, content, or even how you can launch your own recession-proof business? Then check out sevenfigures.com. That's the digit 7, Figures.com, where we share more videos, stories, strategies, funding solutions, entrepreneurial education, and even the secret business type that's recession-proof. Thank you for listening, and if you're finding value in our podcast, please give us a 5-star and invite others to join the club.